It was the final winning deck in our National Invitational just a little while back. We'll see if it's going to be the winner in this match starting now.
Let's see, we have the die roll. Ooh, 5 versus 6. That never feels good, especially when you roll that 5 first. You're like, oh, I have a high number. I should be good to go. But it looks like Zuwan is going to be going second. Oh, did he choose to go first? Oh, we do see something a little not as a normal in a branded strategy, and that's a main deck copy of Cypher Gear Gamma. Definitely increasing popularity now with Kashtira running around everywhere. But it looks like, yeah, he is going to go second, and Arcadio's leading off with Swordsoul, discarding Moye to reveal Long Yuan, to special summon from the hand.
This is so tempting, though. It's so, you have to Gamma, right? Because you knock 2 cards out of their hand in one go.
Oh, yeah. I think you definitely do it, and he is going to drop Cypher Gear Gamma. The best part about Gamma is it's an effect negation that destroys the card that you're negating. Not only are you getting those 2 monsters onto the field, but that Long Yuan is not going to even stay in the hand or touch the field. It's going to be destroyed and sent to the graveyard.
All right, now that does mean that he has monsters on his field, though, so Incredible Ecclesia is live and can be special summoned.
Ooh, yeah, that is true.
Oh, and it's Ash.
Ash Blossom stopping Arcadio from special summoning a Swordsoul monster from the deck.
Please don't tell me you have another starter.
Go ahead and I'll pass turn here.
All right, and phase, I'll banish these 2?
Yes, correct.
So if you have more, I'm like, oh my god.
Yeah, going second and having, Ash Blossom and Cypher Gear Gamma, definitely solid for Zuan here.
End phase. Okay, cool. And then 2 in hand, right?
Yes, 2 cards in hand.
Perfect.
So 2 cards left in hand.
Looks like just
Sean drawing to 4 here.
At least one of those cards is an infinite permanent, so he'll have some sort of
oh, it's going to be so
disruption.
So he's got a Luba, right? So he can just draw out
the impermanent.
Like, you have to impermanent because otherwise they will have it.
Oh, leads with fusion. Interesting. Yeah, I would think you'd summon the Aluber because you
get branded lost.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's where I would have gone with it as well. But decides to lead with the branded fusion. Maybe he's playing something like Brandon Red or the Despia Theater, the branded. So if he uses branded fusion, he gets Ash. He can use the Aluber to get the Despia Theater, and then still find a way to fusion summon. That is something I do in my branded deck from time to time. But it looks like we're just going for the old school branded fusion for Lubellion. So you have to send a Dark with Albaz from your deck. He's going to send Despian's Tragedy. Lubellion on summon, you can discard a card to fusion summon by shuffling the materials back.
And he sends a second copy of Tragedy. And the Lubellion is going to be hit by the infinite impermanence here. That's another one of those reasons that you want the branded lost out there.
Yeah, I usually always go for, not only do you get the protection from impermanence with that loss, you're going to get the effect to add a monster that mentions Albaz. But it looks like he decides to use the Tragedy to add Ad Libitum.
I might go back in there for, but we'll see.
So he still has a lot of options here with the Aluber and Pot of Prosperity in hand.
The impermanence from hand, right?
Yes.
And Arcadio only sitting on 1 card in hand now after going first, getting everything stopped, and not much here for him on his side. But
all right, so we do need a shuffle here. Note that he didn't shuffle before. He said he was going to go back in, potentially, but he is going to need a shuffle now using Pot of Prosperity.
That is very true.
So you excavate your top 3 or 6 cards.
Okay, see, I was wondering, because in the branded deck, Pot of Prosperity, not a card you see as often, and there's not as many things you can banish, so going for 3 makes a lot of sense, especially when you already have stuff like Aluber. Blazing Cartagia, pretty good here. He does have the Fallen Albaz in the graveyard from the branded fusion, so he'll be able to special summon Blazing Cartagia from the hand. Quick check on the graveyard to make sure he does have Albaz before he decides to grab the Blazing Cartagia.
Seems like a good pickup here. Trying to get another fusion available, and do so without using a normal summon.
It's very strong. Being able to go into Grand Ganol and then send a level 6 or higher lighter dark monster from your extra deck or deck to the graveyard can really keep your plays going. Another way to access like Albion when you get something like your Lubellion Impermanence here.
Cartesia effective special summon?
Yes.
There she is.
And this is turn 2.
Normal summon Luber.
Arcadio's life points are open. He hasn't gone to battle phase, but that Pot of Prosperity is going to be cutting the damage in half. So it's going to be tough for him to finish him off in this turn.
Yeah,
correct.
Goes and gets the branded in red that way. All comes back there in the end.
Yeah, Brandon Red really good at making, with Ad Libitum especially, going into the Guardian Chimera and then being able to use to banish Ad Libitum and then special summon back the Mirror Jade that uses the material if he's able to find a way to get to the Mirror Jade. which he should be able to.
Cartesia effective fusion.
If not, like on this turn, it would be on his opponent's turn.
We're fusing right now with Cartesia.
Yep. Here comes Grand Ganol.
Send down.
Grand Ganol out of Photon Hypernova lets you send a level 6 or higher lighter dark monster from your deck or extra deck. He is going to send that Albion to the graveyard, so the end phase will be able to set a branded spell or trap. And then also as the effect, if your opponent special summons a monster by a monster effect, you can banish it and summon
900.
Despia monster from your extra deck, or a Dogmatica from your deck. Most of the time it's just a Despia from the extra.
So both monsters attack directly, but the damage is halved, as you mentioned earlier, thanks to Pot of Prosperity.
5850? Okay.
We'll have a branded in red set.
We will.
What I like to do with Grand Ganol is send Iron Dash. The Spriggans that fall into Albas fusion, then you get to summon McCourier during your end phase, and the McCourier gets you Brandon red, and then he could still find a way to go into Mirror Jade, but he's going to be going to end phase, going to add back the Blazing Cartesia since a fusion monster was sent to the graveyard, and he's going to set Branded Retribution off of Albion.
Not a bad start, especially after so thoroughly disrupting Arcadia's turn.
Yeah, Arcadia just sitting on a Heavenly Dragon Circle and a Moye. There's no Protos in the deck to search off this Heavenly Dragon Circle. It's going to be tough for him.
Yeah, I don't know that this does a whole lot here.
Yeah, I mean, his only options are summon Moye, Circle, grab a Tinye, like a Shuna, maybe, and hope. But that Brandon in red for Ad Libitum into Guardian Chimera will just be devastating. Unless he just uses it on the normal summon of Moye, in which case Arcadio could chain the Heavenly Dragon Circle.
Yeah, we'll go game 2.
But it looks like, yeah, he doesn't need to try much further.
I don't even know that you even try that particular gambit.
Because you're at least like, you'd be revealing information that you're playing Heavenly Dragon Circle to begin with.
And it's one of those things like Sean would have to actually just make a mistake. Like you don't just do it on Moye, no effect.
Yep, certainly.
You got to wait for something threatening if you're going to use the branded.
And it saves time. And a lot of people overlook time saving in the event. Like you're playing with a clock. You need to play as fast as possible. You don't want to make any mistakes, but you still want to play at a quick pace so you don't end up in that time scenario. So being able to see when the game is unwinnable and concede it and moving on to the side deck definitely heads up play for more reasons than one.
So quick game 1 here. And, you know, this is one of those classic matchups. Generally, I feel like people that are playing Tenyi Swordsoul and Branded Despia at this point have been doing so for a considerable amount of time. We don't see many new adopters of those two decks. And I think that means that we're also going to see some fairly quick side decking as well. This is such a common matchup from before. You already have, you know, the muscle memory in your brain. The brain's a muscle too. Remembering, you know, what you got to do for these. And it looks like John's just about finished.
Yeah, he's ready to go. He's like, I know exactly what to decide. I mean, especially when you're John's playing the Branded Despia deck against Swordsoul. You mentioned it's just a tried and true matchup. You definitely called it that he just easily be able to side deck in and out. Maybe it'll take a little longer for Arcadio here, you know, wanting to really focus going first. Am I going to put in cards like Dimensional Barrier? I mean, that's Dimensional Barrier, Ash Blossom, key cards that have always been good against Branded Despia, but I think the best Branded Despia players have found a way to play through those cards. Maybe it's a cross out for a Dimensional Barrier. Maybe it's a cross out for an Ash Blossom. Maybe it's Blazing Cartesia to set you up to make Grand Ganolts where you can still do something to your opponent's turns. But there's a lot of different ways you can play through a lot of those high impact cards that can devastate the Branded Despia strategy.
A lot of them feel a little more high impact than they actually are. Dimensional Barrier in particular. For this event, I was thinking about it a lot when I was building the Labyrinth deck. Now, do I even want this card in my deck? I definitely don't want it in my main deck. And like in the end, I decided I just don't need this card. If I want high impact, maybe something like Eradicator is better for that particular slot.
Yeah, it's definitely one of my favorite parts about Labyrinth is having access to the Eradicators is so impactful. But we'll see if Arcadio is going to be able to bounce back here with his Swordsoul strategy. He did go first in game 1, but when you go second and you have those 2 points interaction, I mean, really the deck building here for Zoan is really paying off. Like, he chose the main deck, the Gamma. He chose the main deck, Prosperity. Neither of those things are very usual to see in a Branded Despia deck, but him reading the metagame, what he thought he was going to be playing against, thought there's going to be Kashtira, knows that if he goes second, Gamma's always good. That Branded Fusion for Gamma's another way you can stop Ash Blossom. So I think his deck building is really paying off here. And I mean, he's already with a 2-0 record, up game 1 in round 3, trying to win game number 2 and move on with 3-0.
Yeah, I was looking at it, it's like this is, like for this particular format, this is really good.
Yeah, I think he did a really good job on his deck construction here.
All right, game 2. Here we go. Arcadio is up first.
See if this one's going to have as many interactions as he did in that first game. I wonder if yeah, the game would have played out different because Arcadio did have the Moye and the Long Yuan and the Heavenly Dragon Circle. If he led with that Moye, got hit by a Gamma, then chained that Heavenly Dragon Circle on the Moye, might have worked out better for him in that first game. But we'll see now that he knows that John's on something like Ciphering Gear Gamma, he might consider those kind of options more here in game number 2.
Okay, so
He does have a better hand than he did in game 1, that's for sure.
All right, so we're going to start out with Ashuna.
Tinny Spirit's really powerful in the Sword Soul deck.
Send that away to link summon Monk of the Tenyi.
Best non-effect monster in the game,
Yeah, of course.
in my opinion.
This is the one that locks you. I was just confirming that.
Checking to make sure that the Worm Lock is in place after that. Once you banish that Ashuna, there will not be a Burrow on the turn.
Vessel Dragon Circle?
Oh, one of my favorite cards in this deck. Vessel of the Dragon Cycle. If you have a non-effect monster, you let you send a worm from your deck to the graveyard, but if you have a non-effect monster on the field, you get to add a Tinny of a different name that you sent.
So that's getting hit by Ash Blossom.
You have to Ash Blossom that. Just too much value that are to be made from it.
It looks like Arcadio's got a ton of search effects left to play, and you only have one Ash Blossom per turn.
Yeah, it's when you wish it was a Droll and Lockbird or something instead, which we have seen played a lot this weekend in main decks and side decks.
I was talking to Tom in round 1, where we had a matchup where Droll and Lockbird were just completely devastating to both players.
Oh, the Gold Pride Punk deck? Yeah,
Pride Punk deck, and then Scareclaw.
Oh, yeah, both those decks add a ton for sure. And speaking of adding, Arcadio is using the Sword Soul Emergence to add. Let's see if he's going to grab Moye, Taiye, Long Yuan. He's got some options. He does already have the Ashuna engraved, which he'll be able to banish to special summon a Tinyi from the deck. But as they were talking about earlier, and you mentioned, we'll lock him into Worms, cutting off that Baron access. But they do have their own level 10 Worm Synchro, who is quite good. Well, they have 2 of them, actually, and I like both of them pretty equally.
It depends on which way you want to damage your opponent. You like the burn damage, you like the attack damage.
Yeah, I'm still a huge fan of Sword Soul. I played the deck for quite some time when it came out. I still have it completely built. I'll never take it apart. I think it even still has like a red reboot in my side deck that has fallen on the Forbidden Limitless since
You
then.
might need to take that one out.
That might need to update that. But definitely one of my favorite decks of all time. And, you know, for those who enjoy Master Duel Sword, both these decks are quite good in Master Duel as well.
This is, search has taken quite a while.
We'll go ahead and try it.
Yeah, there's only 3 options, really. I mean, there are some others in the Auspus, the other Sword Soul. We don't talk about him as much, but he's definitely an option.
So all normal summon Tire?
Yeah, that's fine.
Effective Tire?
That's fine.
Going to banish the Emergence to get a token. When you banish Emergence, he could alter the levels of one of his monsters on the field if he so chose, but you probably wouldn't want to do that here.
Yeah, you're not trying to get a 9 yet. There are situations where you'd want a 9 in Sword Soul. I don't think this is one of them.
I'll call effective Shin to special summon a Tingy.
So, going to banish this Ashuna. Has to worry about Nibiru here. But I don't know. We have not seen a Nibiru the Primal being touched down yet today. I have not. I think round 1.
Yep.
It made a huge impact too, right? I heard it was devastating.
It was pretty rough. A lot of the damage it did was kind of undone by Nitro Head, though. Nitro Head took out Nibiru.
I love that. I love late game Nitro Head. Gold Pride Nitro Head being able to throw that token on your opponent's field and blow up anything around it. Really, really awesome.
The token did get busted up by Scareclaw Tryhard, though. Like a double attacking piercing one.
Oh, that's not good. And now, so he used the Ashuna to special summon Shithana, and then he's going to synchro with the Shithana and the token, the level 4 tuner token for Chichao. And now he's going to use Chichao's effect. Instead of adding to his hand, he's going to banish Sword Cell Blackout from his deck, and that's going to give him another level 4 water tuner token. So interesting lines here coming from Arcadio.
Go ahead and synchro.
I'm not sure that we've seen this one on stream. Like, we've seen a lot of them. I don't think we've seen this particular one. So
Yeah,
Axia up next.
It is an interesting way to go about it. But yeah, so the Taiye is going to be able to send Maybe he's just trying to get to Moye. Anytime you have Taie making a Boxia, you can kind of cycle it into a Moye. You send down the Moye, then you can even use Boxia's effect on itself to destroy itself to bring back that Moye. Reveal for Moye, and then you get your draw when you synchro after that.
So we're dropping Adhara here.
That'll be useful to add back that Ashuna. So now he'll have a worm in his hand if he does happen to have Moye at some point. But yeah, he decides to dump the Adhara instead.
Yeah. I'll just say I'll pass turn here.
And he passes with
I'm
that.
just going to check your banished.
Chi-Chao and Boxia.
Sure.
Chi-Chao does have the effect where he can banish a worm or a Swordsoul from his graveyard to negate a face-up monster effect on the field.
So that's live, but the Baxia's not doing anything here yet.
It is bright, but hanging out in defense mode, and it looks like... Well, yeah, I mean, the Blazing Cartesia is really going to help with the Chi-Chao if he can find a way to get it on the field. But he did draw it with a copy of Fusion Deployment. Fusion Deployment can still summon Fallen Albaz if you happen to draw your one copy of Blazing Cartesia. Though I've seen players playing two copies now due to just being worried if that one copy getting banished off the top of your deck from a Kastira strategy. Or, a Diabolus, the Mind Hacker.
Starts with a normal summon
Opening spin.
of Blazing Cartesia.
Yeah, this is going to completely play around the Chi-Chao. Anytime he uses the Chi-Chao to negate an effect, he'll be able to chain the Blazing Cartesia, fuse both those monsters off the field, and still resolve the effect. I love Blazing Cartesia.
It's good to me. Branded Fusion up next. I think it's too late to be thinking about that. You pull it out of your deck, you put it on top of your hand. You can't be thinking after that.
It's a good one to add, though, so can't be too mad. I'm guessing if he's thinking about it, he might have another copy in his hand. It's like, oops.
Okay, that's fine. Well, I might go back in, but
Yeah,
we'll cut for
they're
now.
Bradley. Yeah.
No, it doesn't look like he did,
He's
so
got
did.
the Fusion Deployment.
Yeah, not a bad ad then. I mean, maybe he wanted to think about it a little longer, but I don't think he's going to get punished for adding a branded fusion here.
It's hard for that to not be a good thing to have.
It really is. All right, so I'm considering his next moves. Branded fusion opens up a lot of options now.
Yeah.
Just going
That's
to
okay.
use the Blazing Cartesia.
Yeah. I said you're good.
I'm sorry.
Interesting.
I thinking.
I thought he'd want to save that to protect from Chi-Chao, but decides to go into Grand Ganol now. Oh, I guess he could go into a Despia fusion.
Yep.
Just like he's going into Quertus, I believe. Yep. Quertus has an effect that can make all monsters less, that are non-level 8 or lower
Curtis
to
effect
0.
The attack of all monsters that aren't fusions.
Oh, the non-fusions. Okay. So
Proceed to battle.
Okay.
Walk over the Chi-Chao.
Yeah.
So he could have negated that effect with the Chi-Chao, but decides to hold it. So by holding the Chi-Chao, it's going to force Zwan to go to the battle phase here to attack over the Chi-Chao, and now he's going to be free to use Branded Fusion in main phase 2 here.
Do you mind if I see your graveyard real quick?
Now, you do want to clear that Baxia,
proceed
though.
to
While
make
it's
phase
not doing anything right now, it's just kind of a slumbering giant, if you will.
It really is. That option to bring a monster back from the graveyard, if you discount that, you could be devastated. We'll see if he's going to be able to get to a Mirror Jade, maybe. He seems to go for the Lubellion to send Tragedy, but it's going to debate before.
Albaz, of course, is required.
Yep, and then, yeah, it does look like Tragedy for Lubellion.
Lubellion, Chain Link 1, discarding for cost.
Yeah, you got to
Yeah,
get
it's
rid
got
of
to be
it.
the Fusion Deployment.
And
You
then
have to
Tragedy
save that Ash.
Certainly. And gonna add that Ad Libitum. Yeah, Ad Libitum plus Brandon Red plus Mirror Jade, super strong.
Really quickly, Ash?
Yes, that's fine.
Taking another look at the Chi-Chao.
I'll fuse with these two to make a Mirror Jade.
Okay.
Mirror Jade drops in defense position. No point in having an attack position now that the battle phase has been spent.
And I imagine Zon's going back into his deck at some point, so no need to
I will
shuffle
go back in
here.
there for a sec, but I'll proceed to end phase here.
So
Phase is good.
Gonna go to in phase. Doesn't just to play around stuff like effect failure, something that would have to be activated in main phase. So in the in phase, he can use the Mirror Jade's effect, send the Albion. Now during the in phase, he's gonna be able to resolve all those graveyard effects.
Yep. Cartesia's so good.
Just keeps coming back. I like to add it back and then discard it. Like I said, during my in phase play with Brandon Red, I make the Lubellion during the in phase, and I just discard the Cartesia I just added back. When it goes to set branded in red here. So that's going to bring Guardian Chimera online during Arcadio's turn, along with resetting the Mirror Jade's effect. Essentially, when it re-special summons back to the field thanks to ad libitum.
Standby? Yep.
Ooh, anti-spell, not something you want to see in turn 3.
Yeah, it's too late. Too late.
Quite a high impact card though. If he had opened up with like just anti-spell Chi-Chow.
Yeah, of those continuous traps, one of them I do really like in this format is anti-spell fragrance.
Yeah, I would definitely have 3 in my side deck if I were competing this weekend.
Like that one, I like Grave of the Super Agent Organism.
Ooh, I get scared. I'm a branded player, so just hearing those words terrifies me.
Call effective, please.
So, gets the special summon not Blazing Cartasia. This is the incredible Ecclesia.
Incredible
Ecclesia, and then contribute that off the field. Do special summon a Fallen Albaz or a Swordsoul from the deck. I have seen some Swordsoul players like tech a Fallen Albaz because sometimes you just want to fuse with your opponent's monsters.
You know, just have something to set and get rid of a Dragon Link board.
Yep, there you go. Oh yeah, the Alba Lenatus access is also a huge benefit.
Not so useful against this particular field setup, though.
Mirror Jade is a Dragon of Sorts. It's a worm, though.
You know, we've got Worm and Fairy out there. Taking a real close look at is that Stana there?
Yep.
Is summon good?
Sean does have an effect in the graveyard. If the normal non-effect monster is destroyed, he can banish it to special summon it back. He's banished the Thon to special summon back the non-effect monster and destroy a card on the field.
Scary thing with Sean is it also works in the hand, if you have it in hand.
Catch him off guard, yep.
In fact, all the Tennies do.
Very good.
Activate the red.
So he's going to summon the token for the Taille, and now that's going to prompt Brandon in red for Guardian Chimera. Let's see if he decides to use the 2 monsters on the field. Nope.
Nope.
Just
1, 2, 3. 1 from the field.
There you go.
That does get Mirror Jade off the field, though.
New chain links.
until Ad Libitum decides to bring it back.
Ad-lib targeting Mirror Jade.
And he's going to get the tragedy effect to also add a Despia monster, so he gets to grab a Luber for follow-up. See, I also like to play sometimes. It's been a while since I used Comedy, but Despian Comedy is really useful. You can either send it down with Branded Fusion and dodge any sort of like effect negation on the field by tripping off your Fusion monster and bringing it back, or adding it here and then being able to discard it to protect your Despians from targeting. But grabbing a Luber for follow-up is fantastic.
All right, so 2 cards have been drawn. The token is destroyed, leaving Arcadio without a method of synchro summoning. We'll have to play another card to get something back.
And you did mention that the Tinny monsters can be used from hand. He does have that Ashuna in hand that can still be used to special summon something like Vishuda, Tinny Spirit Vishuda from the deck to the field. Then he can link the Vishuda away potentially, and then use it to maybe clear one of these monsters, but it's going to be tough. He's a lot of fusion monsters he's facing down right now. And the Mirror Jade's effect is back online. It's one of those cards that its effect isn't hard once per turn by name, or you can use it again as long as you just left the field and return to the field. It's reset and ready to go.
Checks his extra deck there. It looked like he was looking at a Charmer. I don't think we've got...
I'm going to go ahead.
Could be Shaman maybe.
For Shaman?
Oh, it is Shaman.
Yes.
Shaman of the Tinyi. Kind of a cool one. It locks you into, if you use the effect to discard and special summon a worm, you can only use Tinyi effects for the rest of the turn, but definitely a useful option. It's like a zombie master. But
A little bit. A little bit.
It's cool because it can bring back cards like Chi-Chow, even though you won't get the search on summon, but just really a huge monster you can just special summon back from your graveyard.
Great box, yeah.
Yeah, I'm surprised he linked away his non-effect monster before using the Ashuna in his hand.
That's what I was thinking about.
Yeah.
I think maybe he's just trying to get as much value out of it as possible by discarding it first for this Shaman. Depends on what he targets with it. And as you mentioned, it was the Chi-Chow. Still no non-effect monster on the field.
Main, all credits effect is 0 if the attackable monsters on the field.
And now we've got to deal with the Despian fusion effect.
It's going to reduce the Shaman and Chi-Chow's effect to 0.
Still fine, yeah.
Doesn't use Chi-Chow's... Oh, he can't use the Chi-Chow effect because it's not a Tinyi monster.
If you don't have anything.
Makes sense.
Sure. In end phase, I will Mirror Jade effect, cost.
I mean, this is just once the Despia branded strategy gets started, it's really hard to stop and going to be able to banish that cheat shot from the field. Since that Alba Lenatus we're talking about, not only does it like a Chimera Tech Fortress Dragon for dragons, being able to fuse with all the dragons on the field, if it's sent to the graveyard during the end phase, you get to add a fusion spell from your deck to your hand, or polymerization. Grabs branded fusion.
And it just doesn't look good for Arcadia here. I don't think he gets out of this one. Anti-spell fragrance is
He has the
can't even
Cosmic.
get the anti-spell fragrance up.
So I think this really showed, we were talking about how John really prepared for this tournament. Siding in Cosmic means he's looking at anti-spell. He's looking at Super Ancient, the Grave of the Organism. Yeah, that's
It's total domination is the only thing I really have to say about this match. It was an unbelievable performance.
Yeah, he's just double checking, making sure he's not
Making sure he doesn't walk into the Sthana. There's no non-effect monster on the field though, so you're safe.
Tie for game. That's
Through everything. Unreal. What a dominating win in round 3.
Yeah, the branded. That's. I mean, yeah, he had to go second in game number 1, but had those 2 interactions from the hand. That Ash, that Gamma, plus the follow-up with branded fusion, really strong. I mean, people talk about how Ash Blossom is so good against branded fusion, but when you don't have that Ash Blossom and branded fusion resolve.